Great conversation on today's podcast with George Ducas. George Ducas returns. This is actually the second time on the podcast. He was with us way in the beginning. Big news from George Ducas. He has a brand new album coming out. It's called Long Way From Home. You're going to find a mix of that Texas honky tonk and that Bakersfield sound. We're going to discuss some of the tracks and all the great stuff going on with George Ducas coming up on the Texas Toast podcast.
Let's go.
How are y'all? It's so good to be back with you.
I know it is so awesome to have you back and to talk about this amazing album.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Have you actually had time to listen?
I listened to every track and I listened to it numerous times. We're just going to go ahead and roll into the interview. George Ducas on the podcast right now talking about the new album, Long Way From Home. It hits Friday, June 21st. And I know your whole thing, George, is the whole Texas honky tonk and the Bakersfield sound. And like the first track I listened to going into it, when you hit Mr. Guitar Man, there's your sign. I mean, just it was such a strong song. Yeah, and
Thank
so
you.
I have tracks listed, and I want to talk about some of those. Let's talk about you teaming up with Pete Anderson to get this produced.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate that, your kind words. I mean, it really feels good. I absolutely love this record, and I say that not as a hype artist because like I'm not like my own believer in my own thing like all the time. Like, I mean, I'm not a TikTok artist that's just hyping themselves like nonstop. Like that stuff, yeah, I really don't like it. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I'm really truly, that said, I'm really proud of this record and love the collaboration with Pete. We met on the deepest, darkest days of the pandemic by phone, of course, because everyone was living in a bubble. But my lead guitar player, San Antonian, Mark Sauceda, well, then lead guitar player. It was our last show before the pandemic, and we were walking around a casino after having played Hard Rock Casino in Oklahoma somewhere. And he was like, "Man, have you ever worked with Pete Anderson?" I was like, "No, no," but ever since I was like 17 years old, I loved his records on the radio. I was like, and I told Mark this. I would say my 17-year-old self would say, if I ever get to make a record, I want it to sound like that, you know. And I don't know. I think at the time it was like it could have been a Jackson. I mean, Pete Anderson's worked with Jackson Brown, Running on Empty, super cool. That could be today if it came out would be country, right?
Mhm. Sure.
Running on Empty, you know that song. I mean, he's
Oh yes,
Jackson.
I grew up with
Uh,
that song. Yes,
yeah, like I mean, it would be country today, countrier than 99% of the country.
absolutely would. Absolutely.
It's that cool California country rock vibe. And so Pete's worked with Jackson Brown, Lucinda Williams, who's the godmother of
Yes.
the Americana music movement, and super cool career unto herself. And then, of course, Pete's worked with like legends, like everybody from Roy Orbison and Buck Owens. And then he, of course, was instrumental in Dwight Yoakam's first, I don't know, whatever, 10 years, 15 years or more of his career. So all the early stuff, the Honky Tonk Man, Guitars Cadillacs,
Hmm.
up through like Thousand Miles from Nowhere and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
that's Pete playing guitar, and it's Pete's vision. It's Pete's band. It's his buddies that he had the vision. He had and to take nothing away from Dwight, what, you know, his talent. But you know, if Dwight goes and makes a record in Nashville with James Stroud or some guy like that, totally different, totally different. But
Gotcha.
Pete really, his vision for honky tonk music is unsurpassed, undefeated, and he knew where I was coming from with these songs. We got on the phone, like I said, darkest days of the pandemic, and he was like, "Well, hey man, if you want to make a record, how do you see doing it?" It's like, "Well, if I'm going to make a record with you, Pete Anderson, I want to do it your way and go out to LA and work with you in your bubble and with your guys." And you know, we went from there and just started trading songs back and forth by, you know, Zoom. We'd do Zoom calls just like this, and
Hmm.
him with a guitar in LA and me with a guitar in Nashville, and the whole world living in a pandemic bubble. And it was just the most awesome experience. We'd spend 2 hours on the phone yucking it up, everything from music to the songs, obviously, that I was bringing that I had written,
Hmm.
to taco trucks, to Mexican food. Texas barbecue and sports and girls and everything. Like, but I mean,
Oh, I
just
love it.
like, and he really is just wonderful, man. We hit it off, and now I stayed at his house. Like when I go out there, it's just like he's kind of like a lost uncle or even father figure. I lost my dad a couple months ago, and it's
Mm.
so interesting that Pete came along during this time of making this record because he's really kind of, I don't want to say filled that void, but he's really yeah, it's just interesting how the timing of how people enter your life, our lives, and he's super special to me, and we are very, very close.
Well, I'm so glad you shared that because as I was listening to the tracks and I love your music, I have forever. And I was listening to this and I was going track by track and then I would go back and it's like now I know why there's that special touch on it. It's just amazing. And I actually want to start with the title track, Long Way From Home, which I normally never do when we're,
You don't normally
chit-chatting
start
about a
with
new
the title
album.
track, yeah.
But that's a standout. That is something really, really special right there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would be curious as to how it would be. And I know you guys are, I love your podcast. I think it's great. And you guys are doing pretty darn epic things for Texas and Texas music and really representing so well, like what we're about, in Texas. I say we as Texans,
Hmm.
super special, and it excels beyond what Texas radio is doing for Texas music, honestly, because that's kind of limited, really, what they're, and it's very political, and it's
Hmm.
just not quite right, and not quite what it could be, really, and the different factions and red dirt and whatever you want to call it, like you guys are just special. You're just doing special things to really educate your viewers and listeners and lovers of true Texas music, but also just good music. And so I appreciate that. I can't
Yes.
tell you where that started. Oh, my point was long way from home. I'm not sure how it would be received at Texas radio. Like I don't even know. I don't even know because I don't know. It's like it'd be a crapshoot, total crapshoot. I've had other songs I feel are just as special. Go to Texas radio and just like, nope, it ain't Texas, it ain't red dirt or whatever. It's just like, okay, bro, yeah, whatever.
Oh my gosh. That one I must have went back and listened to 5 times and it kinda takes you away and it's like the emotion in your voice and then searching for "I Can't Be Found." I mean, like, all of your songs, are written so well like you always write. But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking that's something special. That's just me,
I
but,
appreciate
I wanted to talk about that one, and of course, speaking of radio, you did kinda give us a little glimpse. You released "Crying Time." We talked about that radio release here on the podcast, and then streaming,
that.
you've already, released "Hello Full" out to streaming.
Mhm.
Another one I wanna talk about, where's the "Tell every fool on a stool about your saying goodbye. Do what the lonely do." Great song.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like every single track, it's just there's like a different story, a different thing going on, and things that hit my ear and my mind with lyrics and then musically as well.
Yeah, oh, thanks so much. I mean, I put a lot of time and energy into crafting songs that, yeah, we just don't need. I have a high standard. Like, I won't even finish a song if I don't feel like it's bringing something special to the table by no fault of its own. Honestly, many times it's just about the idea. Maybe the idea isn't refined enough. You haven't drilled down deep enough. Um, you haven't let it ruminate long enough to really get to the gist and cut out the fat and get to the point, the most poignant parts of the idea, and let them resonate over and over again. And so, like, editing is a huge thing, and like really shopping that idea with yourself or you and a co-writer instead of just launching in and going, okay, man, let's go. Hey, I'm getting kind of hungry. Let's finish this up, like 2 hours, and
Right.
it's like, no, that's not really the way to achieve greatness here. We don't need another mediocre song. We need great songs. And I'm not saying I always achieve that as a songwriter, but if I'm going to record something, I'm going to believe that it's bringing something special to the table. Otherwise, I'm not going to record it, and probably nobody else is either. You know, so
Mhm.
although sometimes I get songs recorded by other artists that I don't really feel are necessarily all that amazing, but
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
kind of that's just kind of lucky stuff that happens. You know.
Yeah, and that recorded by other artists. I was gonna get into some of those great ones later on because I wanted to talk about these, but yeah, I mean,
Sure,
the
let's talk about
library for
these.
your songwriting, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And then, okay, so more no I'm sorry, it's like I just love this. Drifter, leaving the only language that I know, Highway Twister, No Place Like Gone. It's just good stuff. So what was
Drifter
your
is
thoughts when you were writing Drifter?
Drifter's super cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the song, and again, I don't love everything I do, but I do have to love m everything I record, but I really love Drifter. It's, one of my favorites on the record. I love the whole record, but
Mhm.
there's a few lines in Drifter that are just Highway Twister is great, and then but also, like, what's the end of the chorus? Something about leaving feels like coming home. I can't remember. I'm blanking on the line now, darn it. But good thing I'm not singing it right now. But there's just a bunch of really cool lines, and I think what
There
also
is.
I really love about the record is, and sometimes I can't remember a line unless I'm singing it. You know, like it's weird. Like I can't. I actually don't know. Haven't memorized. It's like I have to be singing it to say it. But leaving for me is like coming home. Is what the line is,
Yes, yes.
which I think is super cool. A super cool way to say that. But and I don't credit myself in that. Like my co-writer Jacob Lyda is a phenomenal writer as well. I don't know which one of us came up with that exact line, but he's just a great writer.
Have you ever wondered how artists like Treaty Oak Revival, Red Clay Strays, and Aaron Watson maintain the high quality and high demand for their merchandise? CH Lone Star Promo is the answer. Created in Texas to serve Texas artists, and they're currently offering 15% off on all merch orders from musicians. Visit chlonestarpromo.com to get started and tell them Texas Toast sent you.
I was reading the other day that it takes at least $1 million to break an artist. That's a ton of change, and it can feel overwhelming. But with social media leveling the playing field, you just need an effective strategy to release your music. Check out Release Rocket to ensure your single does not die after release day. You've already put time, effort, and tons of money into writing and recording your album. Let the guys at Release Rocket keep your new release alive.
Anyway, but I love what I love too about the record. That particular song is the recording, because it's a really Merle Haggard vibe, early Merle, Bakersfield Merle, and the record that we produced with it that Pete, pulled out of that song, by and large. But we talked about it all in advance. We borrowed a lot of elements from those early Bakersfield Merle records, and you can hear it if you listen closely. Just the high string acoustic part is very Merle-ish, like Merle's early recordings. Um, Mama Tried. It's you'll hear it on that, the same kind of
Mhm.
guitar parts. And so it's just a super cool vibey highway song, and we all love those. I mean, there aren't enough
Yes.
highway. There are enough beer drinking songs in country music. I think there'll always be room for more beer drinking songs,
Right.
but there are not enough highway songs, in my opinion. Like, because that's something alcoholic, non-alcoholic, don't even drink at all. Everybody can identify with being out on the highway. Like it's just a vibe
Mhm. Mhm.
thing, and traveling and the wild, like covering new frontier, and you get those those little periods of excitement, where you're entering into a new space, a new place, and then maybe a new time in your life, and that's all really exciting stuff. And so anyway, Drifter's kind of about all of
Drifters, yeah. And then Drifter, that the fiddle is amazing too.
Oh, yeah. And, I say that um, sadly never met our fiddle player, but it is one of Pete's trusted fiddle guys, and he's actually Canadian. Um, and so he did all of his fiddle parts remotely, like we just
Mhm.
learned modern technology. But everybody else was on board right there in Los Angeles.
And then Tears Falling Down, I love the harmony on that one, and then you bring in some accordion. Ooh, That
Yeah,
was
it's got a
nice.
little
I love the sound of that one.
it's got a little Tex-Mex flamenco feel to it, and I love that about it. That's the one song I did not write on the album. But I'm really proud of the record we made with it. And it's just it had a different flair to it. Like it represented a different flavor on the album. Like it's different than every other track on there, and it's like it's filling a great space, I think, that's sort of somewhere in between California and Mexico.
Yes, yes. You definitely achieved it on that one. And then one more, I call it the cuckoo clock song because these empty arms. I had to go back and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hilarious. Who comes up with this? George Ducas does. Yeah. It's that cuckoo clock in the corner is driving me crazy. It's like, oh my gosh, I just love everything about this album.
I mean, you remember those old clocks? Like, I mean, I don't even
Yes,
know
I
if I ever
do.
had one in my grandparents' house. I don't even know. I mean, but we've all seen them somewhere, maybe like walking through a flea market or something back when we were kids, or you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
they don't even have, do they even have those anymore? But we,
I don't know. I don't know. My grandparents had one. That's why I remember.
that's what I mean. Like it's a kooky song. And I just, that's why that line came out when it did, like that cuckoo clock sitting there. And it's just a humorous, kooky kind of way to refer to the state of mind that this guy's in, you know?
Hmm,
But
hmm.
but yeah, I'm so glad that that's what attention to detail you're showing, like the fact that you even remember that line. I think that's like a second verse of one of the last songs on the album. So thank you. I appreciate that
That's
to
what I
no end.
do.
I do. Where are you located again? I have to interject.
I'm in Matagorda, Texas, on the coast.
Okay.
Yes,
I knew we talked about it briefly the first time, and I was
yes,
having
we did.
I mean, I was having trouble remembering where exactly, but yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
it's like, yeah, like Galveston is here. Like there's Galveston, which you're where you were born. You know about
that's
Galveston.
right. Yep,
And then you'll move down to Surfside, and then here's Matagorda, and then we'll move on down to Port O'Connor, and
yep.
then Rockport, Port A. So we're kind of
In
mid
between.
coast, that little bitty place. That it was funny because one of the Texas radio promoters, a good friend of mine, called me. He was so excited. He called and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to be coming your way. I'm going to be coming close to you, and we need to meet up for dinner." And I'm like, nobody comes close to me. Like I don't know what you're talking about. It was David Gilligan.
What,
And
what are you
so
talking?
and I said, where are you gonna be? He said, I'm gonna be in Corpus. I was like, it's 2.5 hours away from me. What? He said, where are you? In the middle of nowhere. Yeah, we're at the end.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
where did he think you were?
I don't know. I guess he thought coast, and I guess he thought we're just all together. We're just all one big happy family. But
The
we have a long
coast,
but we have a long coastline in
Galveston,
Texas.
Matagorda.
Yes, you
Yeah,
know how long our coastline is in Texas.
yeah, absolutely. Well, he does too, right? Where's
Oh,
he from?
he's a Dallas, Fort Worth boy.
Maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't know then.
No, most people don't. No, most people do not, including the Weather Channel, because when there's a hurricane, it's coming right at us, and they're either in Galveston or Corpus reporting it. And us
Uh,
little busy bees, we're just getting ready. Tell that story a
uh,
lot on the podcast. I'm glad I get to get that out there. But yeah, it's funny. But yeah, we're a great fishing town, great tourists, and it's
I
growing. It used to be just teeny tiny,
want to
but
come see. How far are you from San Antonio?
far.
Far. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, probably, when was the last
4
time I
hours?
went to San Antonio? Yeah, probably about 4 hours.
That's what I was
But it's
thinking.
worth the drive. It's worth the drive to come, and we can do
Oh,
some
sure.
fishing and do it on a pretty day when it's nice, and we can, you know, during the week is really good because usually like it's not as many people as the weekends, obviously, because yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
I'm not a great fisherman. I don't have very good patience for it, but I love to be on boats. I love to be on.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
about having a drink and some good company and just relaxing. I could care less about catching a fish, really, frankly. I mean, I just soon go buy one at the restaurant. So the reason I ask about San Antonio is I'm building a house there, so I'm hoping to.
Oh, cool.
I'm ready to make the leap. I'm ready to get back home. So
Yes.
I don't know when it'll be done, but probably I don't really want to move when it's 110 degrees. But
Absolutely not. No, you do not.
maybe we just wait till fall or something. I'm not sure,
See,
but
that's the thing. Wait till the fall, and yeah, that would be awesome. I'm just so honored.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yes,
excited.
yes. We'll
But
stay in touch
I
about
would
that.
love to visit y'all. It would sort of would probably feel a lot like Galveston in a way. So I mean, I'd love to. That'd be fun just to be back down there
Certainly.
anywhere near.
Certainly.
But yeah,
That's because so the album is dropping on June the 21st, long way from home. And it's exciting. So everybody should be marking that on the calendar and getting ready because they're gonna a lot of your even your core fans, they're gonna be blown away when they hear some of this.
I
And
think so. I hope
yes,
so. And I mean, I'm excited too because we actually printed up vinyl, and that's the first time I've ever done that. And I'm excited about having the record in vinyl, and it just showed up here at the house. So I'm super pumped about that.
oh yeah. I can only imagine playing these songs on a vinyl because
I
these
know.
songs match the vinyl. So my goodness,
Yeah, it
yes.
is. It is vinyl country. It is. Yeah, there's no bro Georgia hip hop, you know,
Hmm.
uh, tracks going on, and yeah, there's this thing is running far and fast away from Nashville modern pop country as it can, and I'm proud to say that. And whether it's I think there's a real melding of honky tonk music, whether it's Texas honky tonk, dancehall honky tonk, or California, Bakersfield honky tonk. I think like there's in some ways Texas and California are so different as states, but in some ways musically, country music wise, there's a lot of similarity. And I don't know, it's really interesting, and I can trace that back too. It's like guys that I looked up to when I was just starting out, like having met Buck Owens out there in California doing my radio tour of my first record and again on my second record, and he took special interest in me and wound up like we traded numbers, and he called my house and he would leave me messages on my then answering machine, which you had back in
Right.
1996 or 7 or something, and like you know he was from Texas and then he wound up in California. Willie Nelson's another hero of mine I can point to that like very much Texan, but also logged a lot of time wandering around California trying to figure out who he was musically, and so it's interesting how there's 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 example after example of guys like that. So I think this music kind of represents all of that.
I do too. I do too. Absolutely. Well said. And I guess we'll go ahead and kind of start wrapping it up. But just for the record, if you're tuning into the podcast and you, for some reason, do not know who George Ducas is, George Ducas has some wonderful music. Look it up. But also, as a songwriter, you have had other artists. If everyone's heard Just Call Me Lonesome, everyone's heard Kiss Me in the Dark,
Right.
Wide Open Spaces, Beer Run. It goes on and on. So you have just done so much in the music business, but everything, it's like, how can I put this? Like lyrically, with like those songs that were recorded by other artists are songs that are mainstays in everyone's library and your songs as well. And then this album hitting, it's just like, wow, this
Oh,
is
thank you. That's super sweet. I mean, I hope the album gets its fair shake and
me too.
do. It's hard these days. It's hard to make a dent and in all of our as human beings in all of our time, like and the demands on it. Like I don't know that people care about a record, an album coming out anymore the way they once did. There's just so many other things to do, so many other demands on our time and our money. But I still believe in making albums the old fashioned way, and
Hmm.
I I think we've made something special here. If the world has time to hear it, see it, accept it, and come out and see a show.
Yes.
That would be my goal. That would be my goal for
Yes.
take a listen to the
Yes.
record.
And you, yes.
Even just streaming the record, follow on Spotify, download the record, whatever, save it to your library, check it out, and hope to
Mhm.
see you down. you know.
Yes, and check out George's. I know we're starting to run short on time. Check out your schedule because you do have some Texas shows real quick. The Texas shows coming up.
Dude, yeah. We so we're kicking off the album release. On the album release day, we're doing a big show in Nashville. And then debuting a couple of, well, we'll play several songs off the record, but a couple of them for the first time, including Drifter. And then we're straight down to Texas, where I'm going to play Houston acoustically at the Mucky Duck on, I think, the 25th of June, and then 27th, 28th will be in Austin, the Far Out Lounge on the 27th, and then the 28th will be in New Braunfels at Riley's Tavern, I believe is what it's called. So we'll be kicking around back home real soon,
Yes.
next week, in fact.
Yes. All right.
Looking,
Well, George Ducas, as always, it's so great to see this album coming out. It's so good to visit with you, catch up with you, and
I
see you out there doing such great things. So we'll be following along on the album. Thanks again for coming on the podcast.
thank you for having me on Texas Toast. You guys are you're doing great things, and that's and it's obvious because you have great people coming on your show, and it's because everybody loves it. So
Oh,
appreciate what you're doing for us.